by one of our first guests, Miss Chef, author, TV personality, so many amazing things, ambassador to the Harlem community, Miss Melba Wilson. How are you, Melba?
Cherie, I'm super excited to be here with you. And I have to congratulate you. What you're doing is groundbreaking, but what you're doing is also so important to our culture. I think the greatest gift that we can give future generations is our stories, our experiences, and the fact that you're preserving them is amazing. And I'm super excited to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was sharing earlier before we came on that we actually connected in 2013, which is a while ago, obviously. But I've been following your career and all of the amazing things that you have been doing. But like I said previously, let's do a stop and let's check in. How are you doing? How are you?
You know what Mary J. Blige says? I'm amazing. I'm so amazing. You know, blessed to be here to tell the story, to share the journey. As you know, we've been through a tumultuous 2.5 year
Mm.
period, and some of us are still going through it. So honestly, amazing and amazingly blessed. That's how I'm doing. How are you doing?
Same thing. The last 2 years was a chance to just slow down and really look at how we want to proceed in the work. That's how we started the nonprofit of how we wanted to preserve these stories. How do we want it to continue connecting? And so it has, similar to yourself, blessed, looking excited about the future, excited about this podcast, and just excited to keep telling these stories. So thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have listeners from around the world. And tell us a little bit about who you are. Tell us a little bit about Melba Wilson.
Melba Wilson was born, bred, and buttered right here where I'm speaking to you from today in Harlem. And my family roots are from Hemingway, South Carolina, and Andrews, South Carolina. So every year, the month of June, as soon as school ended, my mom, dad would put the siblings in the car and we would take the long drive down to South Carolina. Those were really, really special times for me. And there were special times for me for a myriad of reasons. First of all, there were no tall buildings. We got to run free, run in the grass, in the clay sand. But we also got a chance to reconnect with our cousins, aunts, uncles, and extended family members. Um, for me, it was ultra special because I got a chance to go in the kitchen with my grandmother and cook. So as soon as we got done there, my grandmother give me a little apron. We go out into the garden and we start picking greens, beans, potatoes, tomatoes, you name it. And we carry them back in our apron. You know how you put everything in the bottom of your apron, fold it up, and go back into the kitchen, put everything on the table, and that's where the magic began for us. So that's my family roots. We brought a lot of our hospitable ways from the South up north. And it's where my love of food really came from and feeding people really came from.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about the restaurant and the experience.
Oh my God. Melba's is my other child. I'm a mom. I have a 22-year-old son, and the love of my life, totally. But Melba's was birthed out of me loving what my grandmother did, working in the restaurant industry for many years at Sylvia's, at Rosa Mexicano, at Windows on the World with the one and only chef Michael LaMonaco, and El Teddy's as well. But really saying, this is what I want to do. This is what I love to do. And there aren't too many other things that bring me as much joy as watching people get together, using food as a conduit to bring a diverse group of people together, and just have a good time. That's what a good plate of food does. You can just relax, leave your troubles behind, and enjoy a great meal together. And with my family being from the South, everything we did that was special happened over food. The first birth date of a newborn baby happened over food, the conversations, the 100th birthday celebration, a repass, someone transitioning on. Everything happens over food, right? And so food is a common denominator that brings people together. And that's what I
Absolutely.
wanted to do at Melba's.
Wonderful. For those who, I love Harlem, and I mean, the history, the culture is just amazing. Describe your Harlem in your words.
Ooh, my Harlem. That question. My Harlem is rhythmic. My Harlem is trend setting. My Harlem is the birthplace of the music known as bebop. My Harlem is the birthplace of the food, the dish known as chicken and waffles.
Nice.
My Harlem is historic. My Harlem is community. It's music. It's fashion. It's Dapper Dan.
Yes.
It's James Baldwin. It's, oh my God, it's Minton's Playhouse,
Wow.
where a young Dizzy Gillespie, Thelonious Monk, and Charlie Parker used to perform. It's the birthplace, as I said, of bebop. But my Harlem ultimately is love.
Mm.
And Harlem has molded me, it's shaped me, it's prepared me for the tough times. Um, it showed me that I can persevere, I can get through anything. You know, the people that look at the Harlems of the world,
Mhm.
oh, must have been rough, must have been tough,
Mm.
must have been this, must have been that. It's a ghetto, it's a that. To me, Harlem is a treasure.
Mhm.
Because let me tell you, if it wasn't for Harlem, the things that I have seen and gone through in the food and beverage industry as a Black woman,
Mhm.
and especially as a Black woman from Harlem, there's no way I would have been able to be here, sitting here, talking to you today, and at the pinnacle of my career, had I not been from Harlem.
Wow. So let's talk about that because there's the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Let's talk about let's start off with the good. Let's talk about the good of the journey. What are some things that you look back and you're like, yes, those are just moments that you can smile before we get into the bad and
You got it. So the good,
ugly?
having a dream where I've saved money under my mattress, being on a flight and hearing the flight attendant say, in case of an emergency, put on your mask first. I'd heard it many times before, but this one day in 2004, it really resonated with me.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm taking care of everybody else, which I love doing.
Mhm.
But what about me? I didn't want to wake up one day and go, what about my dreams? So being able to take what was then one of the most drug ridden blocks in Harlem,
Mhm.
count up money that I'd saved for years under my mattress because my mama did that, my grandmother did it. So of course, we usually our parents did. And I saved up a little over $312,000.
Wow.
I was shocked too. I
Wow.
was blown away,
Wow.
but decided to take that money and invest it into my community to show people from that come from the Harlems of the world that we have to be the change that we seek. You know, it's
Mhm.
one thing to talk about change, there's another thing to be about change. So for me, it was okay, I want this neighborhood to change. What am I going to do? What am I going to risk? How am I going to help it change? And so that's what I did. And was
Gotcha.
one of the very first sit down establishments to open up in what is now known as the uptown version of Restaurant Row.
Nice.
That's the
Nice.
good. Being on Bobby Flay, on Throwdown with Bobby Flay was a good. Hiring um, 92% of the staff that we have that come from the Harlems. That's the good. Being able to assist in elevating other people's careers. That's, I mean, the goods are many. So there are too many to even mention. Leading as an example, being able to give back to my community financially with the
Mhm.
space, with food, so many reward moments like that. Being able to feed over 200,000 people out of our pocket during the
Wow.
pandemic.
Mhm.
That's the good. Um, and just being able to show brown girls and brown boys that if I can, you can too. If I can,
Mm.
so can you.
Awesome, awesome.
That's
And
the
so there's a little bit of bad because anything as we're seeking forward in our dreams. So tell us about just some, some bad, some challenges that you've
girl.
overcome.
girl.
Do we have enough time? Do we have enough time?
Oh my God. Hardest thing I have ever done. The hardest thing I've ever done. Hold on one second. My light decided to shift because I'm not good at this thing 2 years in. The bad. It's definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done. Even though I'd worked in the industry for so many years, owning and working for is two totally different things. Right. The buck stops where? Here. Mm-hmm. Okay. So much more than getting a paycheck. Sometimes there were days I never got paid. There were years that I didn't get paid. The bad, opening up my space in the Harlem State Office building. Put the brakes on. My accountant told me not to do it. My lawyer told me not to do it. Back then, I'm like, oh, the rent is so affordable. I can do it. Worst thing I ever did. I had to take money from one business to put into another business. And I should have just closed the business. But it was a contract with the state. So you're like, oh, do I close? And just, there are myriads there's a lot of plethora of mistakes that I've made in this industry. But understanding that the people around you, you've surrounded yourself with them for a reason. So you have to listen to them.
Right. Was there ever a time where you're like, this is it, I'm really going to give up? Or was there always something in you that says, you know what, I'm going to figure this out and turn that corner?
There's never been a time, even though there have been some extremely hard times. My faith teaches me that worry and faith cannot live in the same house.
Just heard that message this morning.
Oh my God.
Just heard that message this morning.
Okay, that's the reason you're here